What's up, guys? Sly Elliott here, and we're going to be recapping Day 2 of Fish Tank Season 2.5 Vampire Bloodgames, okay? Now, it was a fairly eventful day.
All I wanted to do was to keep this town safe, and I let it all go to shit. It's on camera! It's on camera!
That's a sniper, so watch out.
I want undivided attention and respect, okay?
Taylor was MIA all day, pretty much, because she was sick, all right? That's point one, all right? She was not feeling so hot because it was 95 degrees or whatever, super humid, and people are starting to, die of heat stroke on day 2 already. That's how hot it is. So Taylor was pretty much not in play, except to get hit on by Xavier Bloodraven in the woods during their one-on-one rendezvous, which turned romantically charged, somewhat against Tay's will, little non-consensual. It's whatever. It was a bit fail RP that she had a boyfriend when she told Xavier that she had a boyfriend. That was kind of fail RP. It's kind of fail RP to have a boyfriend and not be a boyfriend-free girl for Xavier to date and hold hands with. At this point, I am really on the fence if Xavier Bloodraven, powerful as he may be in terms of improv and roleplay, as well as just general power level on the battlefield as a vampire soldier, he's going toe-to-toe with the Duke, and I'm really unsure if how much of a bit Xavier's doing. Is it real? Is he fully in a character and trying to be cringe on purpose? Is the cringe because he's a LARPer for real? What is it? I don't know yet. Only time will tell. I think it's too early to know for sure. But either way, I mean, he's entertaining. I just hope, for his sake, I hope it's an act. The Blood Games are really heating up already because we have had a ton of combat, a ton of altercations already just by day 2. We had John and Brian get into a heated discussion, heated debate in front of the merchant and in front of the whole town practically, all on display. A little 1v1 of machismo and bravado going toe-to-toe with each other in a game of wits, a battle of wits and words, and neither of them is that really their strong suit. But actually Brian really came out on top with this one. I feel like John's improv skills needs a little more work, but he's getting into it. He's trying to crack some jokes, but not quite as many as the showstopper and show stealer Ty. Ty is absolutely killing it. He's very funny. He's got a lot of great one-liners. His comedic timing is great, obviously, because he is a comedian. Love Ty, actually. Ty's shining in this show so far, in my opinion, and I love it. This is my favorite version. This is my favorite version of Ty. Overall, I think the season is super interesting and a lot more active and exciting than the sitting in the house Fish Tank seasons previously. There's a lot more to do. There's almost something going on constantly to the point where you miss so much and you can only be watching like one camera at a time. The director Cam does a great job of capturing what is important or most important in terms of priority with a very high quality, the best camera that they have on set. I recommend sticking with the director Cam generally as much as possible, unless it starts hiccuping and lagging and having technical difficulties, then I switch off. But honestly, the director cam really is on the money quite often. We had a lot of night combat tonight with the vampire thralls, and just it's crazy body count in the rain, because as you can see, The fish they're getting rained out a little bit right now. They're getting a little rained out. I don't know what John's doing. That's super scary. Whatever this is, this is scary. This is super odd. Oh, he's pissing. Okay. They also had to find the blacksmith's wife, which is a big, it's coming into being a fan favorite very quickly because she does such a great job with the role playing. She has this great voice and everything like that. She sounds really like an NPC from Diablo or something like that. And so they spent a large majority of the daytime looking for the blacksmith's wife at his behest, to find her. He was distraught, and the party set out without Taily to go find the blacksmith's wife, and this entailed teaming up with Xavier, who they've formed at least a temporary alliance with at his giving them the option late last night when he finally confronted them for the first time and met the party. They allied with Xavier, who helped them and showed them the ropes of combat, and especially stealth combat, where he took the party to go take out some outposts of shark goons looking for the blacksmith's wife. And Ty Nagoyan, absolute gunslinger to the max, taking it to the extreme. I mean, he's going full Viet Cong out there. I mean, let's just be honest. Let's call it what it is. I mean, he is absolutely no-scoping sharks today, and the vampires too, with his trusty 6-shooter revolver, and he's really getting the hang of it, and he's getting a bit of an ego too, so keep an eye on him. But tensions are a little less high today between the fish themselves because, well, Taily wasn't around a lot, and John, I think, is getting into it a little more. Aside from every single TTS calling him gay, he's really having a pretty cool head, and he's at least starting to understand the jest of it all, not actually getting mad at the shit and just kind of rolling with it a little better. But he's a talkative guy. You get Jimmy and John together, it's a chatty group just with those two. They talk enough for everybody. So they finally found the blacksmith's wife after interrogating a fallen shark who they revived twice to torture and interrogate, not realizing that the sharks are mute and they can't say anything anyway. Bit of a waste on the health items, to revive them, just to find out that they can't really say anything. But they did end up running into the blacksmith's wife anyway and found her and returned her. And it's the Duke and Xavier Bloodraven are going head to head. They're big rivals. They're the two warring, leaders vying for power in the town and region around Shitty. It seems that Xavier Bloodraven's quite scared of the Duke, and who wouldn't be? It's going to be interesting to see if they ever truly go toe-to-toe and how that's going to pan out. And frankly, I don't think it's going to pan out very well for Xavier. You know what I'm saying? So I actually implemented a new quest tracking feature, kind of keep track of what's going on because it's been so confusing. Made it custom in Photoshop to track the blood games in WoW style. We got Xavier's real name is a big crucial factor here because the Duke has told and explained to the party now that if they can figure out Xavier's real name and they say it, then Xavier is going to be he's going to be indentured to them. He's going to be under their thumb, under their will. So they have to try to figure out what Xavier's real name is while defending themselves from his vampire thralls. And the Duke is also trying to convince the party that it is most wise to side and ally with him instead of Xavier. So you have this Taylor is kind of starting to side with Xavier. She did hold hands with him. She did accept his quest to find Cage and also find out, kind of more about the swordsmanship from Cage at the behest of Xavier. And then we have Letty, who's being kind of pulled aside by Duke, and John, who's getting pulled aside by the Duke, and the Duke is trying to convince those two to fight for him and help him can keep control of the town and defeat Xavier. So it's interesting because what we're seeing is the party members are eventually potentially going to get pitted against each other if they continue on these different paths of helping the different factions. I like that. I think that's really interesting. And so it's also interesting that Letty and John may end up being on the same team in that sense. Xavier is the Duke's brother, allegedly, although that seemed, I don't know if that was fail RP. It seemed like he was just kind of saying that because he said we used to be siblings. I don't think that's how relatives work. But unless it's through marriage, I don't know, like what would the ramifications of that be? Obviously there's a lot of micro stuff. There's like mini quests, there's great interactions and hilarious arguments and altercations that the people have gone through already. The whole party finally learned how to actually use all their abilities and how to participate in combat properly. Jet took everyone aside and explained it at length. So he essentially gave them the tutorial. I think it's interesting where it's all going. The characters are sort of developing these different, they're very aware of the parts they have to play. I've heard that they are on a day rate, on a flat day rate to participate here. So as far as the competition is concerned, I don't think there is much of a competition like how the previous seasons have been. I think there's the big important facet of this, and the focal point of this is to be entertaining, to entertain the viewers, and to just be as interesting as possible, not trying to win per se the game itself. Because when you play D&D and stuff like that, you're not really trying to like win. You're kind of along for the ride. It's about the journey, not the destination, right? So I think the same kind of logic applies here. And the deeper we get into this, the more I can definitely assert that like this is very much D&D coded. Like obviously there's a lot of RPG elements and stuff like that from video games, but at the end of the day, all RPGs really stem from D&D rule sets and that kind of way of devising a campaign, especially the fact that there's multiple player characters in this scenario. Jet really seems to be following the kind of D&D rule set fairly closely, actually. Like when it comes to combat, when it comes to leveling up at the end of the session, all these different things, like it's very D&D. And he is the dungeon master, obviously, and so that's all very interesting. Looking through at the show through that lens also kind of makes things make a little bit more sense as to what we're seeing and how things play out, and then also thinking about how things are going to happen and play out as well. The chat, the Slive Mind has been great. We've gotten some TTSs in. TTS is not hitting quite as hard because the fish seem to be quite numb to it. They seem to be, these are seasoned veterans we're dealing with who understand all the ramifications of TTS and what fish tank is and what MDE is. They know all the stuff. They know how to ignore it. They have thick skin. All of them have been through at least one season of fish tank. And so, the TTSs don't really seem to be getting to them, don't really seem to be hitting quite as hard, especially when you have the TTS being, projected into a forest where people just could be anywhere and like the sound doesn't travel great, like all that kind of shit. It doesn't hit quite as hard. So I'm not saying don't donate and don't buy TTS or whatever. I'm not advocating for that. I'm just saying like, use it wisely. Like you really got to try to pick your moments wisely and time things well. The body cams, I'm going to be honest, are not working great. Like they fall out of range a lot. They go down a lot. They're not super reliable, and especially not at night. Forget about it. Completely forget about it. They're pretty much off by sundown. It's not the most reliable feed to stick with, although it is a fun perspective to get. It's not really something you can rely on as a viewer as much. And that's just something to kind of keep in mind. And then also, if every contestant, if every fish is wearing their body cam at once and it's on and functional, I've never even seen that happen, right? So there's always like, there's so many cameras at play here. There's so many variables that something is down at a given time. They were having even some problems with TTS today. There are some technical hiccups, but they're rolling with it a lot better. And they have a lot of fail safes in place, a lot of backup stuff in place, a lot of, very obvious plans in place to roll with those kinds of issues way better. They're doing a great job as far as the technical execution. Honestly, the directing too. There's been so many great moments, which people are starting to call cutscenes, where characters confront each other and talk to each other and meet up and stuff like that, and they have these interactions. Just like in a D&D campaign, you go, oh, we're going to the tavern. What do? I want to talk to this person. Let's have this conversation, blah, blah, blah. You're doing all your actions. It's just like that. So there's like a lot of that downtime where it's spent in those conversations. You're developing the players are developing their characters. They're adding more to their arcs. You know what I mean? But this is also to be taken with a grain of salt, because not every person who's a fish is familiar with, or maybe has ever played a lot of RPGs, or especially not D&D. Like, I don't think Ty's ever played D&D. I don't think John's ever played D&D. And this is very D&D coded, right? So it's like, they may not quite understand yet what they should be doing, or like how to really, I don't know if they're thinking like that yet. I don't know if they're really thinking about like, what's going to be my arc, what's going to be, and I don't know what their direction was prior to filming. Maybe they were informed of all that. I don't know. Who knows? But it's interesting to see. It's going to be interesting to see how all the different threads and plot lines and quests, like, this Find Xavier's Real Name quest has come up way earlier today, and it's probably not going to get resolved today. It's probably going to be, it could be 2 days until this quest gets completed. We don't know. And that's really interesting too, to have these different threads and these different allegiances and factions growing, and romances, even though they're not real romances. And, like the Taily Xavier thing is, I hope that stops, for everyone's sake, the viewers included. I hope that stops. It's very Chris Chan-like. Everyone's doing a great job, to be completely honest with you. All the NPCs are doing a great job. All the returning fish are doing a great job. All the previous contestants, great job. All the extras, the vampires, doing a great job. Everyone's really giving it their all, and I think that's really cool. Unfortunately, some super inclement weather tonight that is going to cause a very muddy landscape for tomorrow. Don't know how they're going to handle that. But even through this huge storm, they're holding tight, and the equipment's holding out. The feed never went down, and it was pouring, dude. It was coming down hard, and they fought in the rain. So, rain or shine, they're going on. The vampires were fighting in the rain, in the pouring rain. John was fighting with Scott MMA. Like, it was pretty cool. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you, like, the commitment there, pretty cool to see. It's fun to see all these characters like side by side, in combat and stuff like that. I kind of wish we could see combat a little more clearly with the night vision camera, with some clearer angles, but there's some daytime fighting where we do get to see that. Airsoft Fatty has not made an appearance yet. Vance has not made an appearance yet. But I think they will. I think they're coming, especially Airsoft Fatty. I think somebody in the chat yesterday said that Airsoft Fatty, they kind of soft confirmed that he was going to show up. I think he's going to be a boss or some like major character in that sense, like a boss vampire or something. I think that'd be pretty funny. So I'm really excited to see him show up. John and Steel Cage had a duel. Yeah, I mean, there's just so much stuff. Like, that's one thing. If you're into this stuff, if you are at all open-minded and like into the potential like RPG, LARPing, role-playing, whatever type stuff, there's so much like that is going on. There's so many major events, there's so much lore development, there's so much plot development, there's so much character development, there's so many different quests and actions and different things being taken at once that it's hard to keep up with, right? So even for these recaps, like, there's gonna be stuff I'm gonna forget. There's gonna be stuff that I didn't even witness myself because I was watching some other completely different thing. Yeah, I think that the Xavier character is an interesting character. I think the factions, the gray areas of the factions is really interesting. I love that kind of stuff in my fiction and my games, to have these different factions and for it not to be obviously objectively like bad guy, good guy, whatever. We have these two big faction leaders, Xavier and the Duke, who are interesting characters to each their own in totally different ways. And we're going to watch the characters side with whoever kind of sways them, and see how that all plays out, those different kind of quest lines play out, because the Duke has sent John to do reconnaissance and for Letty to figure out what Xavier's real name is, and Xavier's sent Taylor to go get trained by Scott the Cage, and so she can get stronger, so she can be ready to take on the Duke. All that kind of stuff. Like, it's very interesting. It's very funny. Some really good jokes. Good spirits. Keeping strong. So far, the morale did dip a little bit during the day because it was just so brutally hot, and the contestants were getting pretty tired, pretty burnt out. But like I said, and like I kind of said yesterday, it does seem like the contestants are going to be they are going to be turning in a little earlier. I mean, tonight, look, they're all in bed. It's 12:30 midnight, right? The night before, they were all in bed by 2 a.m. So it's actually even earlier now tonight that they're in bed and they're all trying to go to sleep because, first of all, weather permitting, no one's going to go out and do anything because it's muddy, it's raining, it's whatever, it's shitty outside. So what else are you going to do but sleep? And then also, when we're outside like that, like you kind of naturally, you're going to wake up with the sun, you're going to go to sleep when it sets or not soon after. And so I think that's really going to be how it is, so the schedule, I think, is drastically going to be different this season than it was in previous seasons, because the fish are not in a casino like sensory deprivation chamber where they don't have any concept of keeping track of time or time of day and stuff like that. And yes, they've been going at it since 9 a.m. today. I woke up at 9 a.m. today and they were awake. And I was like, this is unheard of. They were all awake, all roused, all eating and starting to get. And, the fish are still slow to rouse and slow to wake up and get really moving. Like, I feel like things didn't super pop off until maybe like 11 a.m. or something like that, around there. So they're still not getting really into it until a little later in the day like usual, but they're awake, they're up and at 'em, and they're not staying up until fucking 5 o'clock in the morning, like I said, chain smoking at the bar and shooting the shit. So that's interesting. That's a drastic difference this time around. So, try to account for that if you're interested in catching any of this live. But the thing is about catching any of this live is that it's tough. Like I said, even if you are actively watching, which a lot of people don't seem to be, they seem to be kind of putting it on in the background. This is a very visual experience this time around, especially on the director cam. It's auditory, it's visual. Like, there's a lot of dialogue, a lot of quick dialogue and interactions. There is a lot of interesting camera angles, like pretty good cinematography and camera work here and there. Interesting shots, visual gags, and visual punchlines and stuff like that. And, so it really pays off to watch, actually actively try to watch what's going on through a lot of what's happening. Yes, I remember that they were arguing earlier today, Letty and John. Letty and John are just going at it. Absolutely. Letty and John are just going to be butting heads. That's why I think it's so funny that the Duke is has separately tried to get them on his side, because they're going to end up being on the same team, even though they don't get along together at all. And they frankly seem to really dislike each other. It's a nice change, good for watching and playing something like New Vegas. Pal World new map just dropped. Cool. Yeah, no, I just played through New Vegas recently. I loved that game. It's absolutely amazing. And this game reminds me a lot of New Vegas, especially like that whole faction thing where like you can, some of the fish are kind of playing, they're entertaining playing both sides for right now. You know what I mean? They're not making it super clear who they're going to side with. They're kind of seeing what each party has to say. They're kind of seeing what each faction stands for, and they're feeling it out. I love that. It feels very New Vegas like, and seeing like who's gonna win, who's gonna come out on top. That's who I'm gonna try to side with. How do I get out of this unscathed? And that's really, it seems like what they're applying, the logic they're applying to it. So it's really cool. Like I said, I can go on and on about all these little things that happened here and there, but a lot of cool stuff, a lot of Kino moments. Try to look at the VODs, look at the clips, if there's good, I'm going to be posting some YouTube shorts daily that I'm scheduling out and stuff like that, clipping from everything that happens. And also, when the stream is not, when the fish are asleep, I'm not going to take the stream down. The Slive Mind can hang out in the chat. I'm going to keep it up, and we're going to cut to all the highlight reel of the clips that I chopped and captured throughout the day, throughout the past 2 days, and it's going to continually compound. So it'll be the clips from day 1, 2, and then it'll be day 1, 2, 3. And so, over the course of the night, if you missed anything, you can tune into that, and you'll see like a never-ending looping shuffled playlist of all the hits of everything that I thought was interesting or funny or whatever, and I clipped in the moment. It's not going to be every major whatever, but it's going to be, hopefully a good, decent chunk of it. So yeah, I appreciate you guys. I hope you're excited for what's to come. A lot more combat. I think the fish are getting into it now. They're starting to get it, and they're also starting to get into it and starting to, roll with it a lot better. And I think that's only going to get smoother as we go. So I'm really interested to see how it all plays out, right? I can't call it. Like, this is such uncharted territory, but I'm here for it. I think it's pretty interesting, and it seems like a lot of you guys do too. So, hopefully they don't get super mud, rained out tomorrow, and they can do some stuff, but expect them to be up early, and in the meantime, catch the highlight reel that's going to be rolling on here all night while they're asleep. And trust me, they're going to be out like lights. They don't really wake up. There's no hijinks in the middle of the night. It's just not that kind of thing. Thanks so much for watching. We've been streaming for 12 hours straight. My computer crashed at one point. I made it through a really bad thunderstorm without going down. So we made it. We made it. And thank you for streaming, Sly. We appreciate you tons. Your consistency is unmatched. So thank you, buddy. No problem, man. No problem. Nathan Dahl, you're a doll. Okay. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for being the most consistent chat and viewership base anyone could ask for. The Slive Mind is absolutely unparalleled. The Slive Mind stays winning, and I really appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much for hanging out, chatting, super chatting, donating, becoming channel members. If you become a channel member, you get access to exclusive Fish Tank interviews with John and Wes. The second Wes interview, and a bunch of clips from season 2 that were too hot for TV that I could never have public on YouTube. You get access to all that stuff, as well as early access to a lot of the new videos that are coming out and stuff like that. Like the channel members got access to the Everything You Need to Know video that went out today early, several hours early. So, and then we're going to try to be doing the recaps and stuff like that. So that's really it, guys. Thank you so much. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for hanging in there. We'll see you tomorrow.